Now, the big news that hit, which kind of seemed very, it looked very similar to the Cam Ward situation. Cam Ward declares for the draft. Carson Beck declares for the draft. Both pull out of the draft or both enter into the portal. Both very quickly favored to land to Miami, then both land in Miami. One has a girlfriend in Miami, him being Carson Beck, which obviously led to that. And I shout out to Miami women's basketball team. They posted that an hour after this saying, let's go post all of, I think it's Hannah. There's the Kavanagh twins. I don't know which Kavanagh he's dating. They're identical. And I literally cannot tell the two apart. And they're both dating football players. Hannah, they said, let's shout out to all of Hannah's, assist for this year. And it was her Asheville basketball assist. So very subtle play on to what this was. Miami fans are absolutely just ecstatic, but you and I were talking about this.
They're back, baby.
They might win the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Talk to me.
Well, I guess I do understand it. Listen, the drop off between Carson Beck and Gunnar Stockton is not giant. I almost think Gunnar Stockton is a better thrower of the ball. I think he has he has better velocity on it. I think he's Georgia's. I'm not saying they're going to be fine, but they're probably going to win the same amount of games.
Yeah, I don't think this isn't a huge loss to them, so I don't think they were really too concerned about it. I don't know if, again, I think you're right. They weren't built around great quarterback play last year, right? So it's not like, and you're saying you believe Gunner's up or ceiling is much higher. We didn't think that at the beginning of the year, but from what we saw, we think it could be. And they've done a great job, I think, putting talent around him. They go get that Texas A&M kid, plus now the Branch brothers are there as well. So good job of supplying talent around them. And you could argue maybe Beck didn't have that. But I don't see him coming to Miami and just thriving. Ward thrived, and you and I talked about this. His ability to be mobile in the pocket, very Caleb Williams-like, extend plays, make it last for a long time. I think Ward's going to go first round, probably to Tennessee, and struggle mightily like Caleb Williams has this year because they're going to think, oh, I can just run around the pocket. Somebody needs to have a conversation with these cats of like, look, the speed is night and day difference. These edge rushers are now built to chase a mobile quarterback. They're not just these fat guys anymore that are coming off the edge. They're basically hybrid linebackers / nickelbacks. Like that's what these edge rushers are becoming.
When the backup, when the third string linebacker playing special teams runs a 4.4, 4.5, you know what I mean? Like the speed of the game's a little different.
Yeah, so you got to be, look, I think you need that part of your game, but when that becomes your strength, that's not going to do well. Here's where I really got upset with this whole thing. I think it's a brilliant move on Brett Beck. When he was declared for the draft, I was in awe, right? Because you and I both said, like, this cat's not going above the fourth round. There's no shot that he goes above the fourth round. And Will Levis, in his first year that drafted second round, made $750,000. Rumor has it he's making $4 million for 1 year at Miami. Well, that's a deal. I think his entire contract was $9 million for 4 years, I think, is what I looked up from the Titans. Yeah. So he's getting half of that in 1 year to play. And possibly, look, Cam Ward definitely went from a probably late first rounder, early second rounder to now potentially the number one draft pick from playing with Miami. So kudos to him. I don't think Beck will have that same kind of jump, but he needed to play another year regardless. What I don't like is the fact that he hits the portal and is automatically rated the number one overall player in the transfer portal. It really, to me, we criticize rankings all the time, but I have a hard time digesting the fact because now people have questioned the portal rankings anyways. You got a massive question mark now on like the legitimacy, even more so with this. Now you could point to plenty of examples, but you can't look me dead in the eye and go, yeah, this guy's the best option. I just don't see it. I don't, especially coming off an injury, that's going to be huge. Like you have to take that into consideration of what his rating should be, right?
Yeah, for sure. And the way he played last year, I know everybody's saying, well, look what he did the year before that. And he just had like a bad year. But you know what? I want to thank our proud sponsor, BetUS. Go ahead, check them out, betus.com. Use the code YouTube150, you get 150% back on your first deposit, $125 on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. What have you done for me lately? I mean,
Yeah.
these kids don't even show up to a camp, and they're on spring break and they're losing stars. So
Mm,
make it make sense.
bars.
And if there's one thing we've hit on this show, and we're pretty correct at, I mean, I know we're just two buffoons with a couple of microphones, but we got to say the track record of us predicting good quarterbacks in the NFL is pretty freaking solid. Okay, I'm gonna toot my own horn at there. I'm gonna say this: the injury is bigger than what people are saying. Like there's some people thinking that like he's ready to rock and roll now. He's not going to make spring game.
Yeah.
As me and Shelton talked before, it's going to be a miracle if he does. Okay.
Yeah, he's 5 to
Um,
6 months, right? So this thing happened December 3rd or 4th or what have you. So then the surgery was 4 days later. So do the math. I mean, if he comes back, which is the spring game is usually early April, depending on what, who you are. If he plays that, like you said, if he plays that game, miracle. Like that's when he should be probably good to go. And that would be, I would say, rehab, like starting to kind of find a rhythm, not playing full speed. I could be wrong. I mean, we've seen crazier.
for sure. And with this injury, what it brings, I have a cousin that played Division I quarterback, and I have the exact same injury. I know it was 8 years ago, but the exact same injury. From what I was kind of talking to him about it, he said the biggest thing for me is I was throwing 200 to 300 balls a day, and after my surgery, I could never throw that again. I was like 75 balls, and my arm was throbbing. I had to ice it, the elbow area in which
Yeah.
he hurt. And then he said he probably lost 4 or 5 miles per hour on the velocity of the ball. And people are like, oh, it's just a couple mile per hour. It's not like Carson Beck had an arm like, Allen or Favre or, where he was just absolutely slinging it. That's gonna cause problems. And Miami fans are all, excited, but I don't think they're gonna be really excited if he's ready week 1 and what he can do, because listen, you get out there, start taking some hits and start throwing the ball, that arm's gonna get tired, especially when you're just at the end of your rehab.
Yeah, you're
Plus,
just
you
gonna
gotta
be
learn
kind
a
of
whole
hitting your
new offense.
yeah, hitting your stride, I would say week 1 of kind of probably in full force. Look, I think there's something else. Money kind of makes a good point too. Boys and girls, there's only 38 likes and 200 people. I hope really appreciate if you guys could smash the like button. I mean, show some love here. Cody and I grinding away on this Saturday afternoon. Look, when Beck had Bowers and McConkey, which both those guys have shown to be legitimate,
Great.
just absolute assets to their teams, which I've got Lad for a touchdown today on my prize pick lineup, BT Dubs. And Brock Bowers, arguably the best tight end this year, no question. No hairline or not, was phenomenal. So great year from him. And look, I didn't think I'm pissed. In one of my leagues, I almost drafted him second. He's going to be my second tight end, and I pushed out because I was concerned about the quarterback play in Las Vegas. But that didn't matter. That just shows you how great he's been. Both guys extremely talented. The other part, again, the O line was atrocious for Georgia, and I've talked to my Georgia buddies about this as well. And he was kind of bringing up, like, Georgia, a lot of the younger fans, they kind of just see we should be good. And I'm talking, he's an older Georgia fan. He's like, look, if you look around, go look at the Kirby tree. Let's go over the coaches they've moved on from. Do you know who they are? How many people they've lost? I mean, he wasn't making excuses. He's like, look, like, and he's more of a realistic Georgia, so I love talking to him. They've lost Fran Brown. They've lost Dan Lanning. Sam Pittman was their O-line coach. Mel Tucker was their O-line / offensive coordinator. Obviously, went to Michigan State. I think there's a few more that he mentioned that I don't know them that well off the top of my
They
home.
lost their offensive play caller.
Oh, they also. Oh yeah. Oh boy, to Baltimore. Yeah. So they lost a lot of coaches, and in that process, the bigger thing was though the development on the O-line has gotten sus since this drop off. They haven't done a great job of replacing that. So that is a great argument. I would say Miami's O-line has looked very well for the last couple of years. I mean, they ran the ball well last year. I think Cam Ward had success because he had time. So that could be a massive uplift because, again, 2 years ago, Beck looked really, really good due to the fact that he had Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey, and I think that O-line was at a much better place than it was last year. I mean, just think about Trevor Etienne. The guy rushed for more at Florida, who you could argue is, would say is a worse team. At the time, a worse O-line, right? But still rushed for almost 800 yards and only had 500 this year against with Georgia, and it was technically the running back number one. So, I, and again, this kind of leads into another thing for Florida, kind of striking while the iron's hot. But that is where I think where BECK may be able to turn over a leaf. And again, if Quinn goes to somewhere like an Ohio State or Michigan that have really worked on that trench work, both those guys could have a resurgent year for their senior year, which also makes the argument of like, dang, dude, these quarterbacks that we're talking about, Nussmeier, BECK, Quinn, these were guys at the beginning of the year that were projected to go to the NFL. And now they're all coming back. And so now whatever team they're on, going to be a huge factor. Go ahead.
I'll say this though, BECK does not have the supporting cast of weapons of what Cam Ward did. I mean, you look at it. They lost both tight ends. They lost
Restrepo, yeah.
They're going to lose.
David Martinez, he's gone, right? The running back.
David Martinez. Yep. So your cupboard's not as full. They got some work to do. The cupboard's not as full, and the biggest problem with them, obviously not named defense, because they don't play any, is that the biggest problem with them is, they all of their weapons minus JoJo Trader is unknown. I mean, they're hoping on 25 guys and
a lot of
couple 24
young
guys.
Talent. Uncle Lou was hot. I didn't see his video. I'm sure you watched it. Was he pissed about BECK?
Oh yeah.
About going to the draft or the portal?
The portal.
So the draft he accepted because like it is what it is, but the portal he was hot about. Why?
Absolutely. Just felt, he said basically unless somebody told BECK to leave, that he just felt it was wrong.
So he wanted to ride with BECK for another year?
Yeah.
I mean, look, Gunner didn't excite me either. Like, I wouldn't be excited about that. At least with BECK, you kind of know what you get.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it is interesting. It is interesting to see, like, who, But again, people don't realize, I've tried telling you this, Georgia is not ponying up in the portal. They haven't had to. And so and again, talking to our Georgia buddies, their NIL, they're not very happy with how they function and spending money. And I guarantee you, if he was being offered $4 million, Georgia's like, I'm not paying you that. They haven't needed to.
Well, and especially with Gunnar Stockton not being that big of a drop off, it's like, why pay him? We can go get a couple wide receivers instead, and that's what they did.
Yeah, I think
because Branch was a pretty penny.
True. I mean, look, they did. I mean, you can't say they haven't spent it because they did. I think they went and got some good guys, and they felt that look like, okay, maybe Gunner's a little bit of a drop off, but we can work with him, and we'll go spend money elsewhere versus spending it here. So, good point. These are all great points.